In this video, we will be learning from a game played by Capablanca, and in this game, Capablanca managed to get a 93% accuracy with 3 brilliant moves. So it's an amazing game, and the thing that I like the most about this game is that Capablanca actually played the Pegasus system opening. So in case you don't know, I have my own chess book, the Pegasus system opening, and I was so surprised to see that Capablanca just played the opening here in this game. So there is so much that we can learn from it. So the game started with Capablanca playing with the white pieces. We have d4, d5, which he played so very often. And the main takeaway, I think, from this game that you can learn so much from is how you can just keep things so incredibly simple, follow this specific opening here that we are playing as white, and win so many games with this. Okay, so the opening itself, Capablanca plays it differently than the way that I play it, but the base structure is always the same. We just want to keep things very simple. We want to have a pawn on d4, we want to have a pawn on e3. Then we develop the bishop to d3, which is good. We can develop the knight to f3, and we play knight to d2, which is great. I play this exact setup as white all of the time. This has helped me become more than 2200 rating online. But I start with knight to d2 very early in the game before we do all of the other moves. The main question is, what is the plan here for white in this middle game resulting from this opening? Well, there are always two plans for white in the Pegasus system opening. One of the plans is going to be to play a bishop fianchetto with the dark squared bishop. The other plan is to play a move like a queen b3 and try to create tricks and traps here on the queen side. To know which one of the two you have to use, all you need to do is look at where your opponent's light squared bishop is. If the light squared bishop is still here, there is no point in ever going queen b3. A very important pawn move we also have to play here as white is pawn to c4. And this pawn helps us. It helps put pressure in the center. And if black ever takes, I mean, we already have two pieces ready to recapture. So this would be very good for white. And of course, black is not going to take here. Black plays queen to f6. I am not 100% sure what the plan was with that move. Yes, it develops a queen, but it also takes away a square from the knight. So that doesn't make sense. This diagonal might be useful for the queen in the future, but we will be putting a bishop on this diagonal. So the queen might actually be in trouble. It does also help black to potentially play e5, which is one of the better counter plays you can do against the Pegasus system opening. So Capablanca just continues. Very simple chess. Really so much you can learn from this. Pawn to b3. And you might be thinking, well, why do we not castle? We could castle right here in this position. Yeah, we could castle. But a very important thing that you need to learn is when you play these types of openings, which actually have quite a closed center, it's not so crucial to castle extremely quickly because the position is so closed in the center that your king is not really in any danger. There are not really any open diagonals or problems. The only open diagonal is this one, but we have that knight already sitting there to block anything. So not really anything we have to worry about. So pawn to b3, which is a good move. Of course, it helps us with the bishop fianchetto, and it also helps support c4 because if black takes here, yes, we have two pieces that can recapture, but the best recapture is always pawn takes c4. And the reason why is very simple. This is a huge thing that you need to understand for all of your chess games. What pawn did black lose? A central pawn, right? The d5 pawn. What pawn did we lose? The b3 pawn. So we basically gained the central pawn in exchange for a flank pawn, a pretty useless pawn. So this is an amazing trade if this were to ever happen. So definitely remember this if you want to play this opening as white. Black didn't take. Black played knight to h6, which is a bit of an awkward move to make. But of course, yeah, what else are they going to do? They already blocked this square for the knight. Maybe they could play knight e7. Probably it is what I would have played. Because knight on h6, it's, yeah, knight on the rim is dim. You don't really want to play that type of move. The plan for white is so incredibly simple, right? Bishop to b2, we put the bishop on this diagonal, and black castles. So we are in the middle game, and it's time to come up with a good plan here for white. And this opening always has multiple plans that you can play for in the middle game, and they are very simple to understand as well. So we have a couple of middle game plans. One of the middle game plans is to play knight to e5, which actually Capablanca didn't play that move, but you can just play knight to e5 here. Knight in the center, you might think, well, don't they just take and then they double your pawns? Yes, but this is always a very good pawn to have. In this opening, you want to try to get one of your pawns to e5 anyways, because on e5 we are controlling some squares, and also that means there is no knight on f6 and also no future for a knight on f6. So this would be good for us. So knight to e5 is a good move. If black tries to challenge, you can always play f4 to protect it, or you can even play knight to f3, which will activate our most passive knight, also helping the center. So that's a huge middle game plan that you can remember here for this opening. You can also castle short. I think that's definitely playable, probably what I would play. You can also put the queen either on e2 or c2. I think both of those are interesting. In the game here, Capablanca puts the queen on c2, which of course is great, because here you can see one of the main plans for this opening, which is that we just want to have everything, literally everything, looking towards the enemy king side, because there is going to be some potential for an attack in the future. So queen to c2 is also a very good move. And black plays knight to d7. We always have to watch out when we play this opening. We never really want black to be able to play pawn to e5. So let's say that I castle short. You always need to keep an eye on this. Can they play pawn to e5? Well, we are going to look at it. Takes, 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 queen takes. Oops, not that. Queen takes. And then maybe we play knight to f3. Queen goes back. We take in the center. I think we would get a position like this. And the question is this good for us or is this bad for us? Well, you can see that if you just look at the pawn structure. So one of the key things that you always have to try to do, especially with this opening, and this is very true to Capablanca's style as well, is think about pawn islands. So what is a pawn island? We have this one huge blue pawn island on the right, meaning these pawns are connected, and we have a smaller pawn island on the left. So we have two pawn islands as white. If we look at this for black, they have a blue pawn island. They are not connected right now, but they can be connected. They have a red pawn island, but they also have this, the orange pawn island in the middle. So black has three pawn islands. And if you want to play like Capablanca, if you want to be more successful in your middle games, you have to try to reduce the amount of pawn islands you have at all cost. Because the player with more pawn islands has more weaknesses to protect. What is the weakness for black? It's the orange one. The orange one here in the middle, that's the weak pawn. That's the one that we can win in the future. So no, e5 here would not be a good move for black. Capablanca here played not castling, but a very safe and simple move, a very good move, pawn to h3. And pawn to h3 just takes away yet one more square from that knight, and that knight is really not doing too great here. Black plays g6, which does connect the pawns, which is great. And then here, Capablanca plays a very, very interesting move that I almost never play when I play the Pegasus system, but I will have to try it out after reviewing this game. He castles long. Capablanca castles long, and this is incredibly interesting. We will need to investigate this as well. Castling long, which basically means, look, we are going to have a huge fight. I will try to attack you as much as I possibly can on the king side. And the king is actually quite safe. It's not easy for black to launch an attack on our king. Black tries to do the only thing that black can really do when you are playing against the Pegasus system, which is to play pawn to e5. And pawn to e5 is the best plan for black because, well, first of all, if we don't respond to it and we just make a silly move, they have pawn to e4 with a fork. And if we take it, sometimes this can help to open up the black position. So we really are in the middle game here, right? We really are in the middle game. And in the middle game, Capablanca always just follows a very simple strategy. He is just looking to see if there are any checks, captures, or threats that we can play to win material. And if we don't have anything, we just optimize, which is basically the CCTO strategy that I talk about in almost every video. But that is the playstyle that Capablanca has, just following that CCTO strategy. So do we have any checks? No. Do we have any captures? Yes. We definitely have to capture in the center, because otherwise we are going to be hit with that pawn to e4. Okay, black takes with the knight. And I think here you can just see what we already talked about. It's the story of the pawn islands. We grab in the center, and now we literally have the exact structure that I talked about before. Black has an extra pawn island. They have this pawn here on d5, an isolated queen's pawn, on a file where we already have a rook. So if you want to play like Capablanca, this is what you need to think about, pawn islands. Okay. So structurally, we are already winning, but tactically, we are also winning here. And Capablanca is going to play 3 brilliant moves in this game. This is where the first brilliant move happens. So if you want, please try to think for yourself, what is the brilliant move here? So the move that Capablanca played is knight to c4. Brilliant move. Why is this a brilliant move? Well, we are attacking the bishop, we are attacking the knight. We are opening up our position. We already have 3 attackers on this knight basically right now. So we are just threatening to win it. And the knight cannot really move because it is pinned to the queen. Okay. So all of this looks good, right? We are basically just threatening to win a piece. But you might be thinking, wait a minute, aren't you just giving away that knight? Yes, but we have bishop takes c4 with a check. Let's say that they take with the knight. They lose the queen. So they don't want to do that. Instead, what are they going to do? I'm not sure. They're probably going to move the king somewhere. But then here we have the most amazing follow-up. Multiple moves win. But rook takes d6, queen takes d6, and then of course that knight is hanging, plus in this variation that would actually be with a check. So knight to c4 is just genius. It's attacking the weakest piece. It's trying to abuse the pawn island, and black cannot take because there is so much trouble coming to their king. And the game black did take. Black played pawn takes c4. So bishop takes c4 with a check. And black didn't move the king. They blocked with that knight. The most passive knight that has been here this entire time is now being activated. So white to play, this is the next brilliant move that Capablanca is going to play. And as I have said before, if you want to get better at finding good moves and finding brilliant moves, it's literally just checks, captures, and threats. That's what you need to calculate. So Capablanca played the move rook takes d6, which still works here. Another brilliant move. Rook takes d6. That's the bishop, and black has to take that with the queen. But of course, this knight is attacked twice, and it's only protected once by the queen, right? Because that other knight is pinned to the king because of our light squared bishop, which basically means this is a rook sacrifice for 2 minor pieces, which is always great. Here Capablanca takes with a knight, which of course it's amazing. I find that a little bit surprising. I thought that he was going to take with the bishop for sure, also getting an attack on the queen. But of course it also opens up this diagonal for the queen. So both moves are great. Both moves make sense. Capablanca takes with the knight. And of course, very hard to play from the black side, but we also have to admit here that black is actually trying to do a good job at defending, because Capablanca is playing brilliant move after brilliant move, and the only thing that really happened is what we talked about in the beginning, right? Where is the orange pawn island? Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. This was a huge exchange, but that orange pawn island is gone. So very interesting position, because right now they have knight bishop. We have knight bishop. We have rook rook. But then we have a bishop where they have a rook. So yeah, it even looks like we are down material temporarily. But of course, it's not just about material. It's also about the activity of the pieces. What is the best move? Check, capture, threat. we have a threat. We can attack the queen with a rook, which of course also activates yet another piece. And this is the moment where Capablanca is going to play the third brilliant move. I think this one is the most insane out of all moves that we have seen so far. So the third brilliant move, if you want, you can pause and see if you can find it. Rook to d7. The third brilliant move in this game. This is just amazing. Rook to d7. So why is this so good? How can you find moves like this? It's a threat, right? We are threatening the queen. Okay. Well, very simple, right? If queen takes, knight takes. And that's definitely good for us. Okay. What if bishop takes? What if bishop takes? That's also what the opponent played there. What if bishop takes? Well, there are multiple things that we can do to win. We take the bishop, and if they take with the queen, we just have checkmate. We just have checkmate here. White to play, queen c3. And we are looking to checkmate on the dark squares, and there is nothing that they can do. The king is stuck, the diagonal is open, the knight is pinned. Yeah, moving the rook, of course, doesn't help. It's checkmate. Moving the king doesn't help. Blocking with something is impossible. So the queen cannot take this. That would just be checkmate. So black realized that, okay, I am in trouble. I have to just move my rook. Because otherwise, of course, we lose the rook, right? The rook is under attack. So they move the rook. But again, try to find the best move here. You have to look at checks. You have to look at captures. And you have to look at threats. So the best move here is a threat. It's queen to c3. It's still the same threat. We are just threatening to do a checkmate. I know, like, the knight is hanging, but it doesn't matter because that is just still a checkmate. And it's also checkmate there because that knight is still pinned. So black is just in a terrible position. There is almost nothing they can do. And black played a very good attempt here to try to defend, which is rook takes c4, basically saying, look, you can have some material back as long as I can eliminate that bishop. That bishop was such a strong piece, a very important piece here for the attack. Now that is gone. Okay, well, funny thing is this knight is still hanging here on d7, but of course black can still not capture the knight because the queen kiss checkmate, queen to g7 has been hanging as well. So yeah, they cannot capture that knight. So how do they protect against this checkmate? It's very, very difficult. Black tried to play knight to d6 as an attempt to stop it, because knight to d6 at least helps so that the queen is now protecting this square. And there are a couple of beautiful moves you can play here. Knight f6 works, but Capablanca doesn't care about this knight. He plays the move queen to h8 with a check. And there is basically only one legal move. King has to go to f7. Then we are going to use the knight. Always look, check, capture, threat, check, capture, threat. Knight to e5 with a check. Yeah, they can take with the queen, which would drop the queen because we can always take back like this. Or they have to move the king. And then this was the final move, after which black ended up resigning. Queen takes a8. And here black said, okay, I have enough. This game is over now. Why is it over? Well, Capablanca is just up 4 points of material, meaning a bishop and a pawn. And it's going to be easy to just trade the final pieces and turn this into an endgame. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to learn this opening, if you want to learn the Pegasus system, you can always go to pegasuschess.com. You can pick up my chess book. You can look at my chess course. All of that is possible. And there are a bunch of free courses on pegasuschess.com as well.